It started as the happiest day of my life, our wedding day. I remember walking down the aisle, the sun shining just enough to make everything look perfect and my heart pounding with excitement. My bride, Sarah, looked stunning in her white dress. I couldn't believe I was finally marrying the woman I loved. My brother, Mark, was standing beside me as a groomsman, grinning like a fool. Everything seemed perfect until I saw her phone. It was during the reception, just a moment of quiet when I decided to check her messages. I'd seen her glance at her phone a few times, more than usual, but I brushed it off. That night I wanted to believe everything was just nerves or last-minute wedding jitters. But as I scrolled through her notifications, my stomach sank. There was a message thread, long, intimate, full of inside jokes and flirtatious words, between her and someone I didn't recognize. My heart thudded painfully. I hesitated, then tapped into the conversation. The words weren't just friendly. They were suggestive, teasing, almost taunting. It wasn't some innocent chat. No, it was clearly something more. I read a message from her that said, "Can't wait to see you again. Last." Night was just the beginning, and my blood ran cold. I stared at the screen, hands trembling, trying to process what I'd just seen. I was supposed to be marrying the woman I'd loved for years, someone I thought knew me inside out. But here I was, holding her phone, feeling like I'd been hit in the gut. I looked around the room, people dancing, laughter floating through the air, and I felt like I was in a different universe. I kept scrolling, looking for more clues. That's when I saw the picture. A blurry, half-lit shot of someone's bare shoulder, and I recognized the tattoo, my brother's shoulder. My stomach twisted so badly I thought I'd be sick. The message beside it was just as damning. "Last night was unforgettable. Can't wait to make more memories tonight." I froze, palms slick with sweat. The world around me blurred. My mind was racing. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my bride, the woman I thought I knew, was cheating on me with my own brother, and this was happening during my wedding weekend. I don't remember what I did next. I know I quietly slipped the phone back into her purse, my fingers trembling so badly I almost dropped it. My head was pounding. I managed to fake a smile when she looked at me and asked, "Everything okay?" I just nodded, but inside I felt like I was drowning. That night I stayed awake in the hotel room, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding in my chest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her messages, those intimate words, that betrayal. I knew I couldn't tell her I'd seen them yet. Not now. I had to plan. I needed to find out if this was just a fling or something more serious, and I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. Not after that. Not after everything I thought I knew about her turned out to be a lie. The question was, how deep did this go? And what the hell was I supposed to do now? I looked over at the wedding ring on my finger, feeling the cold metal bite into my skin. It was supposed to be forever, but now I wondered if I'd been married to a stranger all along. My stomach twisted again. Anger, betrayal, and a rising need for revenge simmered inside me, waiting to be unleashed. Do you want me to go on? The next morning was a blur. I woke up in the hotel room with a pounding headache and a stomach that felt like I'd swallowed a handful of rocks. I kept replaying the night's discovery over and over like a sick movie I couldn't turn off. Every detail, every text, every glance I'd missed, all of it now burned into my mind. I knew I couldn't keep this secret. Not forever. But I also knew I had to think carefully about my next move. I sat on the edge of the bed, the cold morning light filtering in through the window. My heart was racing so fast I could feel it pounding in my ears. I couldn't believe my wife, had been unfaithful during our wedding weekend, and with my own brother no less. The betrayal was so raw I could taste it. My palms were clammy, and I clenched my fists so tightly I thought I might crack my nails. I picked up her phone again, just to double-check the messages. Maybe I was imagining things, maybe I'd read them wrong last night. But no, everything was still there, more proof that she'd been lying to me, hiding a secret. I looked at the screen, feeling the bile rise in my throat. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that and pretend everything was fine? I knew what I had to do. I couldn't confront her right then, not without a plan. I needed concrete evidence, details, and a way to make her see that I knew. I had to understand the full scope of her betrayal. Was it just a fling, or was this something more? I also had to decide how far I was willing to go to get revenge. I left the hotel room quietly, feeling like a ghost. My mind was already racing through the options. I'd always believed in truth, but now I saw that sometimes the truth had to be served cold, and it had to be sharp. I didn't want to destroy her just for the hell of it. I wanted her to feel what I felt, like I'd been thrown into a pit of quicksand, suffocating. I remembered a few contacts I had from a few years back, people who knew about the underbelly of the digital world. I knew there were ways to dig up some dirt, to trace messages, or even get screenshots from her phone without her knowing. I wasn't planning to leave her with just a broken heart. I wanted her to understand in the clearest terms that I'd found her out. Before I headed home, I stopped at a coffee shop. I needed caffeine, but even that couldn't clear my head. I felt the cold sweat on my palms again as I looked at my phone. I had to start gathering evidence. I also drafted a plan, one that would make her regret ever crossing me. I didn't want her just to feel guilty. I wanted her to understand the full weight of her betrayal. The first step, I was going to confront her, but not directly. I needed her to slip up, reveal more. I would leave a trail enough to make her realize I knew about the affair. I'd create a situation where she couldn't deny it anymore. Then I'd show her I had the upper hand. As I sipped my coffee, the bitter taste matched my mood. I thought about Mark, my brother, and how sickening it was that he'd been part of this. I'd always trusted him, always saw him as a brother. Now I saw him as part of the problem. I had to include him in the plan. This wasn't just about my wife anymore. It was about justice, about making sure they both paid for what they did. I decided I'd send her an innocuous message later, something that would tempt her into revealing more. Something like "missed you last night" or "hope you're doing well." I knew she'd respond, maybe slip up. It was risky, but I was already tired of playing nice. I felt a cold bead of sweat trickle down my forehead as I thought about the upcoming confrontation. I'd kept my composure all morning, but inside I was boiling. I didn't know what I'd do once she confessed, or if she even would, but I was ready. I'd make sure she understood that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. The question was, how far was I willing to go? Was I going to expose everything, cut her out forever? Or was I going to make her suffer just enough to realize she'd lost everything? I clenched my fists again, feeling the knuckles turn white. Whatever I decided, it was going to be unforgettable. And as I sat there with the rising sun casting long shadows on the pavement, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to be the one left broken. Not this time. Not ever again. Need me to continue. That evening, I got home feeling like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. The house was quiet, too quiet. Sarah was out visiting her sister, which was perfect. I needed time to prepare, to think, to set my trap. Sitting in the dimly lit living room, I pulled out her phone again. I needed to refamiliarize myself with the messages, find the right moment to strike. I scrolled through the thread once more, eyes burning from the small screen. The way she talked to him, so intimate, so reckless, made my stomach churn. I'd seen her flirt before, but this was something else entirely. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It had been going on for weeks, maybe longer. The betrayal cut so deep I felt it in my bones. I knew I had to get more proof, evidence I could use to threaten her, or better yet, to make her confess. I had a few contacts I could reach out to, people who could help me dig up her digital footprint, find more conversations, or even get a hold of her messages directly. I was planning on doing that tomorrow. Tonight, I needed to keep her from suspecting anything. While waiting, I started thinking about how I'd approach her. I didn't want a shouting match or accusations that could backfire. I wanted her cornered, vulnerable. I decided I'd send her a message, something neutral at first, maybe a simple "how was your day?" But I'd carefully craft it so she'd feel the urge to reply. That's when I'd get her to slip up. I set my plan in motion. I typed out a message revealing nothing, just enough to get her talking. "Missed you last night. Hope everything's okay." No emoji, no hint of suspicion, just cold enough to make her curious. I pressed send and leaned back, feeling the tension coil inside me like a spring. Almost immediately her reply came. "Sorry, I was out with my sister. Everything's fine, just tired." Her words felt hollow, rehearsed. I read her message and clenched my fists again. She was lying, and I Knew it, I could feel it in my gut. I decided I'd push a little more. I responded, "You sounded different earlier today. Is everything all right?" That should do it. I wanted her to stumble, to slip into a mistake she couldn't take back. I kept my phone closed, my palms sweaty as I waited. Her next message was quick, almost too quick. "Yeah, just busy, nothing to worry about." That was typical denial, but I knew better. I had her now. I could see the cracks forming. Her words were brittle like glass ready to shatter. I knew I couldn't wait. I had to act. I grabbed my laptop and started compiling everything I'd found, screenshots, messages, her secret. I was going to confront her tomorrow, face to face with proof in hand. I wanted her to realize I'd caught her red-handed and I wasn't backing down. But I also knew I had to prepare for her reaction. She might deny everything or she might break down. Either way, I'd be ready to push her further. I'd make her see that I knew everything, every lie, every betrayal. And when she finally confessed or tried to deny, I'd be ready. As I finished packaging all my evidence, a strange feeling washed over me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about making sure she paid for what she'd done. I stared at the screen, feeling a strange mixture of rage and emptiness. I'd been married to a stranger all along, and now I had to decide what kind of ending I wanted for this story. I closed my laptop slowly, my mind racing. Tomorrow, everything would change, one way or another. I only hoped I was ready. Because once I stepped into her trap, there was no going back. "Do you want me to continue?" The next day, I woke up with that familiar knot in my stomach. It wasn't just nerves anymore. It was a kind of adrenaline, anticipation mixed with pure rage. I knew I had to confront her face to face. No more hiding behind screens or sneaky plans. This was the moment to be brutal, to make her see I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I parked my car outside her sister's house, pretending I was just stopping by for a quick visit. But really, I was there to wait. Wait until she showed up, or until I saw her come out. I needed her to think I was still clueless, that I had no idea what was coming. That way I could catch her off guard. I watched her step out of the house, her face tired, eyes a little too bright, probably from too much coffee or too much guilt. She looked a little nervous, which was exactly what I wanted. I stayed in my car, not moving until she started walking toward her car. That's when I got out, slow and deliberate. "Hey," I called, voice steady but cold. She froze, eyes wide with that guilty look I'd seen in her 1,000 times in movies, except this time it was real. "Hi," she said, voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" I took a step closer, feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered pressing down on me. "I just wanted to talk. Can we go somewhere private?" Her eyes darted around, probably trying to decide how much I knew. I could see the panic flickering behind her eyes. Good. That's what I wanted. I handed her a small envelope. She looked at it hesitant, then opened it carefully. Inside were screenshots, her messages with him, her flirtatious words, the photos she'd taken. Her face went pale, her hands trembled. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "Doesn't matter," I said coldly. "What matters is I know everything. The late-night texts, the photos, the lies you told me this whole time. I've been pretending, Sarah, but I wasn't blind. I wasn't stupid." She looked like she was about to break apart. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered. "It's just a mistake." "I swear, stop," I cut her off. "You lied every step of the way. During our wedding, while I was promising to love you forever, you were in bed with my brother. That's a betrayal I don't think I can forgive, no matter what you say now." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened. I was overwhelmed and stupid." "You think that excuses it?" I spat. "I trusted you. I married you. And you decided to turn around and cheat on me with the one person I thought was my family. My brother." She sank to her knees, sobbing now. "I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. I didn't mean for any of this to get so out of control. Please just give me a chance to explain." I shook my head slowly. "You've had enough chances, I've seen enough, and now I'm going to give you what you really deserve." I pulled out my phone, opening the camera. "This is just the beginning. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did, your friends, your family, everyone. You may think you're clever, but I've got proof, and I'm not going to let this slide." Looked at me, desperation etched into her face. "Please, don't do this." I was scared, confused. "Save it," I snapped. "You lied, you betrayed me, and now I'm done pretending you're someone I can trust." I turned to leave, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. As I opened my car door, she called out, voice cracking, "Just think about what you're doing. We can fix this. We can be a family." I paused, then looked back. The only family I want now is the one I can trust. And clearly, that's not you or Mark. I got in my car, slammed the door, and drove away, leaving her standing there, broken and crying. I felt the weight lift just a little, but deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. The fallout was coming. I had my evidence. Now I was ready to make her see I wouldn't be silenced. I'd expose her publicly if I had to, because honesty wasn't just a principle, it was my weapon, and I intended to use it. Next, I'd decide what kind of ending I wanted. But one thing was clear, she'd made her choice. Now I was going to make mine. Would you like me to go on? After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to react. No, I had to act fast. I spent the next couple of days gathering everything I could: screenshots, saved chats, photos, even some audio clips I had secretly recorded. I wanted her to understand I was serious, that I had prepared a dossier that painted her as the liar and cheater she truly was. My plan was simple but brutal. I would confront her again, this time with concrete proof, and give her an ultimatum. Either she confessed everything, accepted the consequences, and ended it, or I'd go public. I wasn't about to let her walk away scot-free, pretending she was innocent. I already knew she was trying to pretend everything was fine, that she could smooth this over. But I saw the cracks in her facade. Her messages, her trembling voice, her desperate attempts to deny everything. They all told me she was panicking. Deep down, I knew she was scared because she knew she'd been caught. So I set up a meeting. My house. I told her I needed to talk seriously, and she agreed. I could see her trying to pretend she was unfazed, but her eyes betrayed her. They darted around, avoiding mine like she was searching for an escape route. When she arrived, I was already waiting, my arms crossed, holding a folder of evidence. She hesitated at the door, then stepped inside. "What's this about?" she asked, voice shaky. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I laid the folder on the table, pushing it toward her. "This," I said coldly, "is everything I found. Every message, every photo, every piece of proof that you've been lying to me. For Sarah, I know the truth now, all of it." Her face went white. "You're bluffing, you don't have everything." "Oh, I do," I said, "and I'm not bluffing. You've been unfaithful for weeks with my brother during our wedding weekend. Do you want to deny it, or are you going to finally admit what you've done?" She stared at the evidence, trembling. "It's not what it looks like." I was confused. I didn't know what I was doing. "Bullshit," I shot back. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted to hurt me, and you did, but I won't stand for it anymore. You either tell me everything truthfully, or I'll make sure everyone knows about your betrayal, your family, my friends, everyone." She looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. "Please," she whispered, "I love you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It's just I was stupid. I was lonely." "Lonely?" I echoed. "That's your excuse. You think I don't get lonely. Everyone does. But you don't cheat, you don't lie, and you don't betray your vows. You made a choice, Sarah. You chose him over us, over everything we had." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want this to end. I'll do anything, anything." I raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that? Because I've got every message, every photo. You want to keep lying, go ahead, but I'm done. I want a clean break. I want you out of my life for good." She looked crushed, defeated, but still desperate. "Please don't do this. We can fix it. We can start over." I shook my head, feeling the last of my patience slipping away. "No, I've given you enough chances. You chose your path. I'm done being your fool." I paused, voice firm. "Here, what I want. I want the keys to the house. I want you to leave tonight. I want you to take everything that belongs to you, and I want you gone." She looked at me, eyes wide, trembling. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," I said. "I want you out, and I want no contact. You broke every promise you made. You broke me. And I won't let you keep hurting me anymore." She nodded quietly, tears streaming down her face. "Okay," she whispered, "if that's what you want." I reached into my pocket, pulling out the keys to the house. I pressed them into her hand. "Here, take your stuff and don't come back." She took the keys, silent, broken. As she turned to leave, I found myself breathing a little easier, but the ache in my chest hadn't fully gone away. I'd lost someone I thought I knew, someone I'd trusted. Walking to the door, I looked back once. It felt like closing a chapter I couldn't undo. I knew this was the end of my marriage, but also the beginning of my healing. The lesson: Never ignore the red flags. When someone shows you who they really are, listen. Because sometimes the truth hurts, but it's better than being blindsided by betrayal. Would you like me to finish with part 6? The house felt eerily silent as I watched her drive away, keys in hand, her figure shrinking into the distance. The air was thick with a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd done it, I'd finally taken control, turned the page on a nightmare I never saw coming. But inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd lost a piece of myself, buried beneath layers of betrayal and anger. As I closed the door behind her, I stood there for a long moment, feeling the weight of everything I'd just been through. It was over, or at least I kept telling myself that. Still, I knew the scars would linger for a while. Trust had been shattered, maybe beyond repair. But I also knew I was better off without her lies clogging my life. The first thing I did was sit down at the kitchen table and pull out the folder of evidence I'd gathered. I took a deep breath and looked at all the screenshots, messages, and photos I'd collected. It was a brutal reminder of how deep the deception ran, how easily she'd betrayed the vows she made. I thought about my brother, about the promise I'd once made to him to be close, to be loyal. Now I saw everything differently. I knew I couldn't let her lies control me anymore. I owed it to myself to move on, to rebuild what I'd lost, my sense of security, my trust, even my dignity. I printed out some of the key messages, the ones that made it clear she'd been unfaithful during the wedding weekend, and I kept them close, just in case she tried to come back or if her family tried to justify her actions. Later that night, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, feeling the burn down my throat. It was a small victory, but it was mine. I had taken back some semblance of control. I thought about all those nights I'd stayed up, questioning myself, wondering if I'd missed the signs. Turns out I hadn't. I'd just chosen to ignore them because I loved her. Now I saw the truth. I'd been married to a stranger all along, someone who wore my wife's face but betrayed everything we stood for. I realized I'd been giving her chances I shouldn't have, but enough was enough. In the days that followed, I cut ties with those who enabled her, muted her on social media, blocked her number, and made it clear I wasn't interested in any reconciliation. I started focusing on myself, working out, reconnecting with friends, and slowly, very slowly, healing the wounds she left behind. Looking back, I wish I'd trusted my instincts sooner, ignoring the early red flags, her secretive glances. Her strange phone habits cost me everything I thought was real. But I also learned something valuable. You can't fix a lie, and sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to walk away and start over. So here I am now looking ahead. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I'm not the fool anymore. I'm stronger than I thought, and I refuse to let betrayal define me. To anyone going through a similar heartbreak, trust your gut. Red flags aren't there to scare you, they're warnings. And no matter how much you love someone, you can't fix a broken foundation. Walk away, rebuild, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Because in the end, the truth always comes out, and surviving means knowing when to walk away and never look back.